Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah, okay, you're good.
Sorry about that. So yeah, thank you guys for joining today. We're gonna get started here. So yeah, just a couple of housekeeping items real quick. So yeah, first we're gonna welcome our presenters. Both Mark and Ben are on our rules committee here with the Philadelphia section. So they're both very knowledgeable in the rules, very good experts. So Ben and Mark, do you guys just want to give a quick little intro real quick, just so everyone knows who's presenting?
Sure. Go ahead, Ben. Okay. Yeah, my name's Ben Debski. I'm the head golf professional at the Springhaven Club in Wallingford, and happy to be here tonight. Looking forward to getting the season underway. It's great to see so many juniors on the call tonight, and we look forward to discussing the rules with you all.
And my name is Mark Monahan. I'm the retired director of golf from Pawpack Hills Golf and Country Club up on Lake Wallenpaupack. I retired 10 years ago, and for the past 8 years, I've been serving on the staff doing rules officiating at junior tour events and also the PGA events, and happy to see all of you here today.
Well, thank you, Mark and Ben. We are happy to have you guys on today. So yeah, just for everyone, just please remain on mute for the time being. A lot will be going on and be discussed. If you guys do have any specific questions about something that is being gone over at the time, feel free to type it in the chat or raise your hand if needed. But we will, at the end of all this, have kind of like an open Q&A for any specific rules questions or any situations you guys have gotten in that you may not know what to do. So with all of that, we'll go ahead and get started here. Terms real quick.
So again, thanks everyone for coming on. Obviously, there's these are 3 or 4 important terms that we're going to kick the presentation off with tonight, but there are lots of definitions in the rule book, and educating yourselves on the definitions and what they mean is really important to understanding the rules. So beyond these couple terms that we're discussing, we're going to be talking about a lot more as we go through tonight, but make sure that you familiarize yourself with the definitions in the rule book. But to kick off the first one, we have wrong place. And generally speaking, to define wrong place, it's any place on the course other than where the player is required or allowed to play their ball under the rules. So a couple of examples of wrong places would be playing the ball after replacing it on the wrong spot or not replacing it at all. And generally, probably the most common place that would happen would be on the putting green, where you would mark your ball and you're required to replace it on that same spot. And if you replace it in a different spot, then you're going to be playing from a wrong place. Then we have playing a drop ball from outside of the relief area. So if you've got relief areas that are 1 or 2 club lengths, if you're dropping a ball outside of a 1 club length relief area and then you play the ball, that too would be considered a wrong place. And then we've got taking relief under a wrong rule. So you might have hit a ball into a penalty area, and instead of taking penalty area relief, you take unplayable ball relief from the penalty area. That would be taking relief under a wrong rule. And if you play the ball, that would be playing from a wrong place and then playing from a no play zone. So we all know that those are areas where we're not permitted to play a ball from. And if you do so, that would be playing from a wrong place. So the penalty from a wrong place, generally speaking, is going to be the general penalty, which is 2 strokes in stroke play or loss of hole in match play. But it really comes down to whether the breach is a serious breach or not a serious breach. So understanding the differences between those two is going to help you determine whether there's a more significant penalty or you're just sticking to the general penalty. So a serious breach is when a player is going to gain a significant advantage by playing from a wrong place. And in that situation, they have to correct the mistake. And if they don't, there's a possibility that the player is going to be disqualified. And if it's not a serious breach, so in the case of playing from outside of the relief area, it's going to still be the general penalty, but the player is going to play out with the original ball without correction. So kind of a couple pieces to playing from a wrong place. and you have to ultimately decide whether there was a serious breach or not when you think of playing from the wrong place. Generally speaking, 2-stroke penalty. Mark, anything to add under that?
Nope, you covered it very well.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
can we do the next one?
Sure.
Movable versus an immovable obstruction. Movable is exactly what it sounds like. It's something that can be easily and readily moved out of the way. So, for example, let's say your ball landed in someone's drinking cup, and you were right next to a green. You would take that ball out of the cup, remove the cup, and your reference point is going to be directly under where it was, and you drop within in your relief area, the 1 club length half pi thing in that area. An immovable obstruction is something that cannot easily be removed without doing damage or some type of harm. I'll give you a good example. All of you are probably too young to remember a tournament Tiger Woods played years ago back in the desert, and there was a huge boulder along the side of a fairway, and obviously not easily removed, but about a dozen fans came out and pushed it out of the way for him so he could take advantage. So I think that's when they reworded this and said it had to be easily removed and not get away with playing the course the way you find it. Okay.
Great. Wrong ball here to wrap up our important terms. Something, we run into almost every time, well, not every time, but quite frequently on the golf course. And a wrong ball is any ball other than the player's ball in play, their provisional ball, or a second ball in stroke play. So we're going to talk about some of those things as we move along in the presentation. But examples of wrong balls would be another player's ball in play, so somebody that you're playing with or somebody else that's on the course. A stray ball that's maybe left on the course, for whatever reason. And then wrong balls can also include the player's own ball that would be out of bounds, lost after 3 minutes, or lifted and not put back in play. So always important to identify your ball or be able to identify it in some way, shape, or form, whether that's with a marking pen or some kind of personalization on the ball. And the penalty for playing a wrong ball is 2 strokes in stroke play or loss of hole in match play. And if you play a wrong ball, you have to go back and correct your mistake before moving on to the next hole. And if you don't correct your mistake and you tee off on the following tee box, you're going to be disqualified. So, make sure it's important to put an identifying mark on the ball and always check it before playing.
Good.
Just, I can do this one, Mark. Just a quick one here. It's this is under Rule 2, but it's important that you're all familiar with the different areas of the course. And there's 5 areas of the course, the general area, and then there's 4 specific areas of the course. And those include the teeing area, the penalty area, bunkers, and the putting green. And we're going to touch on, 3 of the specific areas of the course tonight. But it's important that you're familiar with the different areas of the course, because depending on where the ball lies in those different areas is going to help determine how you proceed under the rules. All right, so I'm doing bunkers here, and again, a defined term in the back of the book, and maybe just a quick shout out for everybody here. Hopefully everybody has the Rules of Golf app on their phone. If you don't, it's can be very advantageous to you when you run into your rule situations. But a bunker is a specially prepared area of sand, which is often hollow, from which turf or soil was removed. So understanding that is important. And then understanding what is not part of a bunker is also important. So we've got this diagram here, and a lip, wall, or face at the edge of a prepared area and consisting of soil, grass, stacked turf, or artificial materials is not part of the bunker. So when we look at this diagram, we see the ball in the face of the bunker or the wall there. And as long as that wall consists of soil, grass, stacked turf, or artificial materials, we can come to the conclusion that that ball is not in the bunker. Furthermore, with the definition, it's also not part of the bunker would be soil or anything growing or attached natural objects inside the edge of a prepared area. So we've got this island of grass that's also in the bunker, and the ball lying in that island of grass, that is also not part of the bunker. So how we proceed for a ball that might be embedded in the face of the bunker is going to be completely different from how we proceed if a ball is embedded in the sand. So those two balls are not in the bunker. Obviously, the one that's sitting in the middle of the bunker is in the bunker. And then this fourth example, we've got a ball that's lying on the rake. And Mark talked about movable obstructions. This is a perfect example of a movable obstruction where the player would be able to play it as it lies or take relief from the rake. So the ball could be lifted, the rake could be moved, and then the player would use a reference point directly under where the ball lie on the rake, and then drop the ball within 1 club length of that reference point, no closer to the hole. 12.2 here on the left has to do with removing loose impediments. We just talked about, can you go back for a second, Zach? Has to do with removing loose impediments. So there was a good rule change, I guess in 2019 that permitted the removal of loose impediments in the bunker. So you can remove things like stones, leaves or twigs and other loose impediments in the bunker now, which you previously could not do. But you have to be careful when you're removing loose impediments anytime near your ball. If you happen to move a loose impediment and the ball moves, you're going to be penalized 1 stroke and the ball has to be replaced. So good change that you can remove the loose impediments. Just be careful moving them near your ball. All right, Zach, we can go to the next one. Okay, so again, when the rules changed in 2019, it became a lot more lenient in terms of what you can and can't do in the bunker. There's a lot more touching of the sand that's permitted now than there was previously, but there are still some situations where you can run into a penalty. So up here we have when touching the sand in a bunker results in a penalty. And there's a couple key words here: deliberately and test the condition of the sand. So if a player deliberately touches sand in the bunker with a hand, club, rake, or other object to test the condition of the sand, there's going to be a penalty. And then touching the sand in the bunker with a club right in front of or right behind the ball in making a practice swing or in making a backswing for a stroke are all going to result in penalties. And that penalty is the general penalty, which again would be 2 strokes in stroke play or loss of hole in match play. Now, there are some times where you can touch the sand in the bunker where a penalty is not the result. And I think we're familiar with a lot of these things: digging in with your feet to take a stance, smoothing the bunker to care for the course, placing clubs, equipment, or other objects in the bunker, measuring, marking, lifting, replacing, or taking other actions under a rule. So we're going to talk about taking relief from an abnormal course condition in a bunker later. But if you're measuring your 1 club length and you happen to touch sand in the bunker, that is not a penalty. Then we've got leaning on a club to rest, stay balanced, or prevent a fall, and even striking the sand in frustration or anger. So all of those things are permitted without penalty. And then we've got this little kind of caveat at the bottom here that says, but the player gets the general penalty if their actions in touching the sand improve the conditions affecting the stroke. So if the player touches the sand and they improve the lie of the ball, the area of the intended stance, the area of the intended swing, the relief area, or the line of play, they're still going to be on the hook for a penalty. So while there is more lenience here, you still have to be careful when you're in the bunker and you touch the sand. All right, I'll hand it over to Mark.
Okay, here we go with the putting green. Putting green is rule 13. We're going to cover here marking, lifting, and cleaning the ball on the putting green, improvements allowed, and what to do when a ball or marker moves, and also a wrong green. These have changed quite a bit in 2019. We can get away with a lot more things now than we did before. Whenever you're lifting that ball on the putting green, it must be marked. And it's one of the few places where you're allowed to do it at any time, as long as that ball is on the putting green. You may mark it. By marking it, you should be placing a coin or small object right next to the golf ball, preferably right behind it. And you can even use your putter and use, say, the head of your putter and hold it down next to where the ball is to lift it. When it's lifted, you can also clean it. Next, the improvements that are allowed on the putting green. Obviously, you were always allowed to remove sand and loose soil from the putting green, push it away by your hand. And you can do that at any time. Your ball does not even have to be on the green. You could be on the collar and you can remove the sand or loose soil. Keep in mind, if that sand or loose soil is on the collar of the green, you cannot touch it there. And repair damage. You can repair any damage on that putting green. Before you couldn't. So let's say a mower ran over an acorn and pushed it into the ground. That was just tough luck. You had to putt through it. Now that can be removed. It can be repaired. You fix ball marks. You can fix animal footprints, etc. The only thing you really can't fix is a aerification hole. And one of the new things that came out also then is what to do when a ball or marker moves. So it all depends on the circumstances here. If you accidentally cause your ball to move or your marker, it is no penalty, and you just replace the ball or replace the marker. If the wind or a natural, say, water flowing or wind caused your ball to move, and you had not marked and lifted your ball, you're going to play the ball as it lies. We call this, anytime you mark and lift that ball, no matter what causes it to move, you're going to replace that ball to the spot. Once you've marked and lifted it, we call that you own that spot now. That ball is going to go right back to where it was. Again, if you hadn't marked and lifted it, and the wind blew it over, say, maybe off the front of the green or something, then you're going to play that ball where it lies. On wrong putting greens, you have no choice here at all. You must take relief from a wrong putting green, and you must take 100% relief. So you got to take relief for not just the lie of the ball, but also the stance and the area of your intended swing. I'm going to go to the next one there. Oh, we were done.
Yeah, that's actually all we had for putting green. Did you want to add anything onto it, Mark?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. Again, this is another one of those areas where if you were on you can remove loose impediments. And the same thing, just be careful of that ball moving. Although if you were moving a loose impediment, you most likely have a marker on that ball and you're good to go. Okay.
All right, so we're moving on to Rule 18, and this covers out of bounds, lost ball and provisional ball. And I think it's important to understand when the ball is lost. So a ball is lost if not found within 3 minutes, and that 3 minutes basically starts when the player or the caddy begins to search for the ball. So if you're playing in events that have caddies, just be careful if you hit a ball that may be in an area where you might think it's lost, that you guys kind of time your arrival so that you're both there looking for it. Because as soon as either of you get to that point and start the search, that 3 minutes begins. And I think everybody in the rules community says that 3 minutes goes by really quickly. When you're searching for a ball, players can use a reasonable amount of time to identify their ball if they are not certain that it is theirs. And basically that means that, let's say I hit my drive and it hooks towards some pine trees, and I get over to the tree that I think the ball is in, and I get over there, and it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and I see a ball that's kind of suspended up in one of the tree branches. But it might take me a little bit of time where maybe I need to climb the tree, or maybe I need to get binoculars out, or whatever. This rule basically says that I've got approximately 1 minute once I find a ball that I think is mine to identify it. And if I go over that 3 minutes, that there's some leniency there. But that only applies when you find a ball that you think is yours. I think we all know that for balls that are lost or out of bounds, you must take stroke and distance relief. So, you've got to get 1 stroke penalty, and then you go back to where the previous stroke was made. And stroke and distance is an option anywhere on the course. So you might be in a penalty area, might be in a bunker. You could be anywhere out on the course. You might be taking an unplayable ball relief. You can always proceed under stroke and distance. So if all else fails, that's an option. And then once a player puts a ball into play under the stroke and distance rule, the original ball is no longer in play and must not be played. So, and that's true even if the ball is found within the 3 minutes. So going back to that ball hooking towards the pine tree, if I hook one into the pines and I get up there and I get kind of into 2 minutes and I'm like, hey, it's really, really woodsy over here. There's lots of long grass. I'm going to go back to the tee and hit another ball. As soon as I hit that ball off the tee, that is now my ball in play. And even if my fellow playing partners find my ball within 3 minutes, it doesn't matter. That ball is considered lost at that point, and I've got to proceed with the ball that I put in play under stroke and distance. So just be sure when you go back to the previous spot that you understand that, or that you announce that you're playing a provisional ball. And that kind of leads us into the next slide, which is how to play a provisional. And this is a provisional ball is allowed only when the player believes his original ball is lost outside a penalty area or is out of bounds. So you cannot play a provisional ball for a ball that you think is lost in a penalty area, only when the ball is lost outside a penalty area or is out of bounds. How to announce a provisional. So this is an important one, I think. We all get in the habit of just, casually saying, I'm going to hit another ball, or I'm going to reload, I guess are some of the more common terms that we use. But you must announce that you're playing a provisional, and you must use the word provisional or clearly indicate that you're playing a provisional ball. And this is basically to save time. So, again, going back to the situation where I've hooked the ball into the woods, hey, that might be lost outside of a penalty area. I'm going to hit a provisional ball, and you're putting that ball in play so that you can save time if the ball is in fact lost or out of bounds from coming back to the tee box under and playing under stroke and distance. It just saves some time. But keep in mind, not enough to say that you're just playing another ball or playing again. We would urge you to use the word provisional anytime you're going to hit a provisional ball. And the provisional can be played up until the point where the player believes the original ball may be lost. So if I hit a drive 280 yards and I think that ball's lost or out of bounds, and I say, hey, I'm going to play a provisional, and I hit a 3 hybrid off the tee and it goes 200 yards, I'm permitted to play that provisional a second time. And let's say I knock it on the green. I can play that provisional up until the point where I think my original's lost. So that provisional was 200 yards off the tee. I can hit that again, and then I can go search for my original ball and play it if I do find it, as long as I don't play the provisional beyond the point where I think that original ball was. All right, and then just how to kind of determine whether your ball is out of bounds. We've got a diagram here, and just to read some of the terminology, a ball is out of bounds only when all of it is outside the boundary edge of the course and this diagram provides examples. So on the left-hand side, we have out of bounds defined by stakes in the ground. And on the right-hand side, we have out of bounds defined by a painted line on the ground. And on the left-hand side, it says the boundary edge is defined by the line between the course side points of the stakes at ground level, and the stakes are out of bounds. So you can see the green shaded area is the course and inbounds, and you can see the gray shaded area is the out of bounds area. And the inside points of those stakes at ground level is the determining boundary there. So obviously we've got a ball clearly on the course on the far right. We've got a ball clearly out of bounds on the far left. And then we've got a couple that are pretty close, but the ball that's touching the course is going to be inbounds. The one that's kind of half on the line and half on the course is inbounds. And the ball that is completely into the out of bounds shading is out of bounds, even though it looks like it's pretty close. That ball is out of bounds. And then on the right-hand side, the boundary edge is the course side edge of the line, and the line itself is out of bounds. So again, we've got one clearly inbounds, we've got one clearly out of bounds, and then we've got two that are pretty close. You can see the one touching the course, even though it's half on the line and half on the course, because it's touching the course, it's considered inbounds, where the ball that's completely on the line and not touching any part of the course is going to be considered out of bounds. So really important in terms of being able to tell when you're out there. You need to know that that ball has to be touching a part of the course to be considered in bounds, and completely out of bounds to be considered out of bounds.
Let me give one comment on the out of bounds, because this has happened on our junior tour in the past. Some of the golf courses that you guys play there's a local rule that can be put into play that if your ball, if it's out of bounds, you can go up to where it lies out of bounds and drop in the fairway with a 2-stroke penalty. That's a local rule that has to be in effect. And you may be doing it at a course you play, but keep in mind, all of the Philadelphia Junior Tour events do not put that local rule in effect. In the past, we've at times had to penalize players because they did it at home and thought it was okay to do it there. So keep that in mind.
Good point.
Okay, rules issues in stroke play. Playing 2 balls when uncertain what to do. Let me get that out of here. Playing 2 balls in stroke play. A player who is uncertain about the right procedure while playing a hole may complete the hole with 2 balls without penalty. So let's say that your original ball that you've hit off the tee is laying in a tire track. You don't know if you get relief or not. And so there's no one, you can't find a rules official close by, and there's no one there. You and your fellow competitors don't really know what to do. So your option is now you can play 2 balls. So the player must decide to play 2 balls after the uncertain situation arises and before making a stroke. The player should choose which ball will count if the rules allow the procedure used for that ball by announcing that choice to their marker or to another player before making a stroke. If the player does not choose in time, the ball played first is treated as the ball chosen by default. Keep this one in mind. The player must report the facts of the situation to the committee before returning the scorecard, even if the player scores the same with both balls. The player is disqualified if they fail to do so. That's a big penalty there. So make sure when you're playing 2 that you follow that. If the player made a stroke before deciding to play a second ball, this rule does not apply at all, and the score that counts is the score with the ball played before the player decided to play the second ball. So remember, before you even, if you intend to play 2 balls, you got to announce that before you hit anything, play any shots. But you also get no penalty for playing the second ball. Remember the part about that you must report this to the committee. In the past, my experience has been usually I get called over after this already happens and the players tell me what happened. And that actually takes care of that requirement of reporting it to the committee, because all the rules officials on the golf course are part of that committee. Next one, Zach. Playing a wrong ball. This is one we sort of talked about a little bit already. Suppose we'll do this quickly. In stroke play, the player gets the general penalty, 2 strokes, and must correct the mistake by continuing play with the original ball by playing it as it lies or taking relief under the rules. The stroke made at the wrong ball, and any more strokes before the mistake is corrected, including strokes made and any additional penalty strokes solely from playing that ball, do not count. So you go out there and you walk down, you hit your tee ball, you get down in the rough, and you see it's a Titleist and you think it's yours, and you just go ahead and whack it. It goes out of bounds. You drop another one, go through it, and then all of a sudden you discover that that ball that you hit the first time was not your ball. It was a wrong ball. So that's that stroke and that penalty do not count, but you must go back and correct the mistake. So you're going to go back and either find your original ball or proceed with stroke and distance if you can't find it and it's lost. And you must do this if you do not correct the mistake before making a stroke to begin another hole or the final hole of the round before returning the scorecard. The player is disqualified. It's a serious one. Tell you a quick story. I was playing in one of our section events, and I had a pretty good round going. I hit a drive that I didn't like, so I was a little mad, and I walked down in the rough, and we found my ball. I thought what I thought was my ball, and it was I could see it said Titleist on it. Now, mind you, every time I golf, I put 2 dots right next to the number, and my initials were also on the ball. And I hit that one, went up to play the next shot. It wasn't my ball. It was just plain carelessness. I had all that stuff on the ball and still hit a wrong ball. So be cautious when you're out there. It's tough when you got to do the 2 strokes. Okay, Zach. Starting play of a hole. If a player who is starting a hole plays a ball from outside the teeing area, including from a wrong set of tee markers for a different teeing location on the same hole or a different hole. Stroke play, the player gets the general penalty, 2 strokes, and must correct the mistake by playing a ball from inside the teeing area. The ball played from outside the teeing area is not in play. That stroke and any more strokes before the mistake is corrected, including strokes made and any penalty strokes solely from playing that ball, do not count. If the player does not correct the mistake before making a stroke to begin another hole or the final hole of the round before returning the scorecard, the player is disqualified. So, for example, you're required to play our junior white tees, and by mistake, you pull up, and hopefully we never have them close by, but you end up playing the tee markers that are white, but they're the course's white tee markers. And you proceed to hit that ball 3 times, get down towards the green, and then you realize that you played from the wrong tee markers. All those strokes do not count, but you must go back and correct it with a 2-stroke penalty. So you go back to hitting 3 off the tee. If you don't do this, player is going to be disqualified.
Mark, similar to you, I played from a wrong tee a couple of years ago, and it's not a good feeling.
Well, there was at the Burlington Classic, one of our pros saw me sitting in the rough on my cart and comes driving up, and his question was, Is it a 1-stroke penalty or 2-stroke from hitting from the wrong tees? And I said to him, well, it's 2, and you must correct it. And he goes, yeah, I already corrected it. I just didn't know whether to take 1 or 2. And this is one of the better players in our section. So it can happen, happens to all of us. Okay, Zach.
There was a quick question in the chat here. It says if you play a wrong ball and then determine the original ball is lost, you get 2-stroke penalty, 1 for wrong ball and 1 for lost ball.
No, you're going to get 2-stroke penalty for hitting the wrong ball, and then you're going to have to go play stroke and distance. So you're going to get another penalty stroke. So total of 3 penalty strokes. Got that? Did I answer that correctly there?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Abnormal course conditions. So by definition, our abnormal course conditions are animal holes, ground under repair, immovable obstructions, and temporary water. And again, these are all defined terms in the rule book. So just make sure that you're familiar with these different terms. But we've got an example here taking relief from an abnormal course condition in the general area. And it looks like this player's balls ended up in ground under repair. So we've got the spot of the original ball. The abnormal course condition is the ground under repair, and then a reference point and the relief area. So I think the tricky part here is determining the reference point when you're dealing with abnormal course conditions. And so your reference point is going to be the nearest point of complete relief from that abnormal course condition. And then once you determine your reference point, you're going to be able to define the relief area, which is 1 club length in any direction that's not closer to the hole. So once you establish the relief area, you're going to drop the ball in the relief area. It must then stay in the relief area, and then you're free to proceed from that spot without penalty. So these are the more common ones, I guess. Ground under repair and immovable obstruction, and then temporary water would probably be third, and then the animal holes are a little more rare. But that is your relief from an abnormal course condition in the general area. So I guess a really common one is cart paths, sprinkler heads, or other situations that you run into on the course, and you're going to follow the same procedure for those situations as well. So establish nearest point of complete relief and your reference point, and then you're going to be able to drop 1 club length no closer to the hole from that reference point. Okay, so we just talked a little bit about relief using the nearest point of complete relief. And if that nearest point of complete relief is not available, you can move on to the maximum point of available relief, which generally happens in the bunker or on the putting green. So to cover relief in the bunker from an abnormal course condition, and a lot of times we use temporary water as our example in the bunker, you're going to still find the nearest point of complete relief and then drop 1 club length from that reference point no closer to the hole, but the ball must remain in the bunker. Using that same example, if your ball's in the back portion of a bunker and there's let's say there's a large puddle there and there's no area to get relief from the water, you may also take the ball out of the bunker and use back on the line relief and drop on that line for a penalty of 1 stroke. So that would be an additional relief option from an abnormal course condition in a bunker. And then furthermore, we talked a little bit about the maximum point of available relief. And that permits a player to, if there's not an area of nearest point of complete relief, to drop a ball maybe still in water, or you might still be standing in water, but you would be able to take a maximum point of available relief option in that situation where a nearest point of complete relief is not establishable. Relief on a putting green I think the key here when you're taking relief on the putting green is that you're going to place the ball. You're not dropping it when you're taking relief from an abnormal course condition on the putting green. So if you're dealing with temporary water on a putting green, again, maybe you're standing in temporary water on the putting green, you're going to find that nearest point of relief, and then you're going to place the ball at that nearest point. You're not establishing a relief area. You're just placing the ball at the nearest point of relief. And interestingly, on the putting green, that area, that nearest point of relief might be on the putting green, or it may actually be in the general area. So important to understand those terms again. And even if the relief area was in the general area, you would still place the ball. So keep that key differential in mind, that on the putting green, if you're taking relief, you're placing the ball, you're not dropping it, even if your nearest point is off the putting green in the general area. And then embedded ball. So we've got this little diagram of when a ball is embedded. And the key here is that the ball is in its own pitch mark and it's below the level of the ground. So the first two pictures are examples when the ball is embedded, if it's in its own pitch mark. Where we see the top one, we actually see the ball is kind of in the dirt area where it's below the level of the ground. The second one, it looks like there's some protection from the grass there, but you can still see the indentation where the ball is embedded below the level of the ground. So even though it's not touching the soil, it's still embedded. And then in the third example on the bottom, this ball's not embedded. It looks like it's kind of buried down in the rough and not a good lie. But because there's no breakage below the level of the ground, this ball would not be considered embedded. Couple things to keep in mind with embedded ball. It's got to be in its own pitch mark in the general area. And you would not get relief if it's clearly unreasonable to play the ball as it lies. So if the ball happens to be in between two tree roots and it's embedded, if it's clearly unreasonable to play that ball, you would not be able to take free relief. And then no relief when the ball is embedded in sand in a part of the general area that is not cut to fairway height or less. And our relief here for embedded ball is a little bit different than it is for an abnormal course condition. You're going to use your reference point is directly behind where the ball is embedded as your reference point, and then you still get a 1 club length no closer to the hole from that reference point. But that could be a little bit different than your typical relief from an abnormal course condition.
Penalty areas.
I think I saw a question come up, Zach. Did something pop up?
Somebody said third embedded ball is Patrick Reed's. I guess they were not sure entirely.
I think the Patrick Reed one I remember was when he was in the sand and he kind of had like a mound of sand behind his ball, and then when he went to take his backswing, he took the sand away with it, and I think he got penalized for improving his conditions affecting the stroke, if I'm remembering that correct.
Ben, I think there was another one where he hit a shot and missed a green to the left, and no one really saw the thing land, and the rules official came over and they declared the ball was embedded. However, on TV, it showed that the ball landed in the grass in one bounce and then went in, but they still ruled it as embedded. And that was after the fact. Whether that ball was really embedded or not, I don't know if we really know.
Okay. Yeah, I think the key there is that there is that the ball is below the level of the ground, and the player's permitted to lift the ball to see if it lies in a condition like that. So I've had a situation before where a player, was deep Bermuda rough, and he asked to see if the ball was embedded, and we permitted him to mark the ball and lift it to see if it lied in a condition where relief was permitted. And ultimately, we came to the conclusion that it wasn't embedded. It was just a bad lie.
Very common. Penalty areas. Notice I said penalty areas. If you were as old as I am, that was a hazard for many, many years, and I still have difficulty now and then. I'll use the word hazard instead of penalty areas. All you young kids should probably have no problem at all with that. But you may hear your parents or grandparents or somebody say hazard. Okay, let's move on. How to take relief. This is under Rule 17. Our options are you can always play the ball as it lies. If you watched the golf tournament over the weekend, Jason Knapp hit a ball into the penalty area on, I think it was hole 16. Went down, tried to play it out, took him 2 swings to get it out, walked away with a quadruple bogey. So it was a bad decision to play it as it lies. He could have gone back, but so it was. He did not win the tournament. Okay, so you play it as it lies. You can do stroke and distance relief, which you're permitted to do at any time. Back on line relief. So this is where, although we're going to get into a slide and exactly show you that, but back on line is going to where that ball last crossed the penalty area and keep that point between you and the hole and go back as far as you want. And we also have lateral relief. This is for red penalty area only, where you can go up and drop the ball within 2 club lengths of where it last crossed, and as long as you go no closer to the hole. There is no relief for abnormal course conditions, embedded balls, unplayable balls. Want to move on? Here we go. Okay, so you can see from position 1, the player strikes the ball, goes into a yellow penalty area. X marks the spot where it last crossed, and you can see where that dotted line goes back to 2 and continues on. If your favorite distance is 60 yards or whatever, go drop it where you want to go. And in this situation here, you must drop on that line, on the straight line back. You can't go back there and be 2 club lengths off of it. So you're going to drop on that line, and where it first touches the line is your reference point, and then your relief area is that club length. Even if it goes closer to the hole, you can see a big circular area there is your relief area. So as long as the ball strikes the line and stays within that circle, you are good to go. If it happened to roll outside of that relief area, then obviously then we drop again. If it does it a second time, then you get to place it where it landed in the relief area. Okay, Zach. Okay, now we have a red penalty area. So the player here pulls their shot to the left, crosses. You can see where that number 3 is, where it last crossed the line. And he's taken lateral relief there with 2 club lengths. Or you still have the option, could play the ball as it lies if you wanted to hit it out of the water. And the other one, you can go back on line relief, where this, as we described, his reference point is going to be right on that back on the line, and then he gets the club length like circle there. I don't know how often we do this with the juniors, but there also could be an opposite side. I don't know if we have a slide that shows that going to the opposite side. Do you want to go one more, Zach? No. So go back there. So if you went where he last crossed there, where that X is pointing to, you could go to the opposite side. If this local rule was in effect, could go to the opposite side, equidistance from the hole, and drop the 2 club lengths from that side over there. Okay.
All right. So yeah, that was pretty much most of the presentation here, but we are going to have kind of like an open Q&A. If there's any specific questions any of you guys had, feel free to raise your hand, type it in the chat. All right, you can go ahead, Annie.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add and let everybody know. I don't know if anyone's been receiving our MailChimps and whatnot, but we have introduced a rules hotline for players to use during their round for tough rulings if they can't find a rules official. This is kind of for like, hey, I don't even know what my second option would be to even play two balls. Therefore, I'm going to call the rules hotline. It would ring to either myself, Zach, or David's phone. And then we would radio over to the rules officials to help get you that ruling. So I just wanted to let everybody know that option. If you guys do need that phone number, it is all over our website. I can give it to you now if anyone wants to copy it down. I can just actually throw it in the chat for everybody, but that's kind of what I wanted to say. So if anyone else has questions, carry on.
Thank you, Annie. But yeah, anyone have any specific questions? Anything that we touched up on at all? Someone asked if the ball is moved during the search, is it a penalty?
No. If the ball's while searching for a golf ball, if you accidentally move the ball, there is no penalty and you replace it.
Andrew. Yeah, Andrew, you can are you able to unmute yourself? You could ask a question if you want. Andrew, did you have a question? No. All right. John, if you had a question, you can unmute yourself and ask it.
Thank you very much. Can you please go over casual water? My interpretation of what casual water might be different from someone else's. So can you just review that, please?
Sure. Casual water is now technically called temporary water. Basically, the definition says any temporary accumulation of water on the surface of the ground, such as puddles from rain or irrigation or an overflow from a body of water, that is not in a penalty area and can be seen before or after the player takes a stance without pressing down excessively with their feet. And then it goes on to say it's not enough for the ground to be merely wet, muddy, or soft, or for the water to be momentarily visible as the player steps on the ground. An accumulation of water must remain present either before or after the stance is taken. So I think the key is that it's got to be visible water. That it's not enough to be muddy or wet.
So if it was, just say it was obviously casual water, would you call over your playing opponent and say, I'm taking relief from this casual water?
By the rules, you don't necessarily have to do that, but it's probably a good practice before taking relief that you do say, hey, fellow playing partners, I think I'm in casual water. Certainly, if it's a kind of a judgment call, I would make sure that the players are at least generally on board with what you've decided is casual water.
Okay.
And then that might be a case where Mark talked about playing two balls as well.
And if there's a disagreement,
I think in that case, you're going to play two balls. You're going to state that, hey, this is what I think. This is the ball I'd like to score with. However, I'm going to play two balls and we'll report the facts to the committee and let them kind of come to a conclusion.
Very good. Thank you.
Mark, anything to add on that?
The only thing I'd add is if you were in that situation, you may want to mark that spot after this is all done so you can show that rules official where it was. And
Or what if you took some pictures?
that would work also, possibly. In my experience has always been tough. Players a lot of times don't agree when they think they have temporary water, and I tell them it's not. They're standing there doing an Irish jig trying to bring the water up out of the ground, and that's just not going to cut it. It's got to be visible.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Good question, John. Is there any other questions at all? No, we kind of went over a good bit. All right, we'll do kind of like a last call here for questions. Yeah, in the meantime, really appreciate everyone hopping on this call today and taking some time. A huge thank you to both Mark and Ben for taking this time out of their day to do this for you guys. So yeah, this was recorded, so we will send it out to the membership after. So if you guys did want to go back and look at anything that they went over, we will send this out to everyone. But other than that, we're looking forward to a good year. Hopefully you guys learned something from this. I know I definitely did. The rules, big part of golf. So, really good to have some knowledge on it. And, we're lucky to have some of our section members be so knowledgeable about it too. So yeah, thank you guys. Looking forward to seeing everyone soon. If anyone's playing this weekend, I'll be out there at 5 Ponds and Shoregate. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone soon. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So long, everybody. Now you get to do your homework.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Ben. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thanks, Annie.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
Pretty good on time. Or,
Mark, thanks. Good job.
Over maybe.
Yep, that was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.